God says, "Beware, for God is trying to protect you from a man, and when the truth unfolds, the name will shock you." There are times when we feel a strange heaviness, a discomfort that we cannot explain, a sense that something or someone isn't right for our life, even when everything looks fine on the surface. These moments are not to be ignored. These are often gentle whispers from God, reaching into the depths of our heart, urging us to step back, to listen more closely, and to trust that what He is protecting us from may not be seen with our eyes, but is already known to Him. Type Amen if you believe. In His loving mercy, God sometimes allows pain in order to protect us from greater destruction. There are people sent into our lives that appear as blessings, as friends, companions, or even saviors. But deep within their presence lies a storm hidden behind calm words and charming faces. We may not see it right away. We may even pray to keep them close. But God, in His divine wisdom, begins to move things, shift our paths, and stir our spirit with unease. And when things fall apart, it is not always the enemy at work. Sometimes it is the hand of God, carefully removing what would have shattered us if allowed to stay. His love is not always soft in appearance. Sometimes it comes through silence, through doors that will not open no matter how hard we try. Sometimes the delay, the unanswered call, the goodbye we never wanted to hear, is Him stepping in to shield us from what we thought we needed. When God wants to protect you, He doesn't always send a sign in the sky. Sometimes He simply sends you discomfort, closed opportunities, and separation from a person whose intentions were not aligned with His purpose for you. This protection may come in the form of isolation. It may feel like loss, but it is never without love. He removes to restore, He subtracts to multiply. What we feel as punishment is often protection. And when we cling to what He is trying to take away, we may prolong the suffering that would have passed if only we had let go in faith. God does not just protect your body. He protects your mind, your peace, your purpose, and your future. And when He tells you to let go, it is not to leave you empty, but to prepare you for something holier, safer, and far more beautiful. Type 1111 if you trust in God. There are people who smile with their mouth and carry harm in their heart. They may not even be aware of the damage they bring. But God sees the soul. He sees the thoughts that never make it to words, the envy behind every compliment, the selfish motives behind each act of kindness. And He knows when your spirit is being slowly worn down, not by loud betrayal but by quiet corrosion. That is why His protection doesn't always look like a warning. It looks like redirection. It looks like peace being removed, like something just not feeling right, like an opportunity being delayed without explanation. It is in those moments that you are being loved the most. God is not letting you go unnoticed. He is fighting battles you don't even know exist. He is blocking messages, pausing meetings, shifting timelines, all so that you may avoid the wound that would have crushed your spirit. And if you find yourself in a season of confusion, not understanding why a person you once trusted is suddenly distant or revealed in a way that breaks your heart, take heart in this truth. God reveals what needs to be seen when it is time. Sometimes the name of the person you least suspect will carry the most hidden danger. It may be someone you have trusted for years, someone whose voice has been familiar and comforting, someone whose presence you felt was a gift. But when God decides it's time for you to see what He has known all along, the veil is lifted gently but firmly, and once you see, you cannot unsee. It will shock you, it will hurt, but it will also begin your healing. Do not curse the moment the truth comes. Bless it, for it means that God has stepped into your life in a way that is unmistakable. He does not always use thunder to speak. Sometimes He uses a quiet realization in your heart, a slow fade of connection, a sudden awareness of the weight you carried that you had mistaken for love, and in that awareness, freedom begins. Even when it feels lonely, even when you do not understand why things changed, do not rush to fill the empty space with noise or new distractions. Let the silence speak. Let the Holy Spirit comfort you. Let the healing begin, because the person God removed, or is warning you about, was never meant to have full access to the heart He is still nurturing. He was protecting His promise in you, even if it meant removing your preference. You were never meant to walk in fear, but you were meant to walk in wisdom. God never asked you to trust blindly in others, but to trust fully in Him. When He says beware, it is not to frighten you, but to prepare you. When He speaks protection, it is because He already saw the consequence. You are His child, and there is no length to which He will not go to protect what He placed in you. It can be confusing, even painful, to imagine that someone you cared for, prayed for, or leaned on might actually be the one God is asking you to step away from. But the truth is, not every connection is divine, not every companion is a blessing, and not every hand that reaches for you is meant to hold your heart. Type 222 if you believe in God's protection. What if the missing piece to financial success wasn't luck, but a hidden frequency inside your brain waiting to be switched on? Once activated, this ancient signal unleashes waves of prosperity, opening doors to opportunities you never thought possible. From sudden windfalls to long-awaited breakthroughs, it's transforming lives daily. Want to see how? Click the link in the video description and comments below to tap into the money magnet brainwave and begin your journey today. Others are already awakening this hidden signal and watching their lives transform. Do not be the one left behind while abundance passes you by. Sometimes, God's greatest act of mercy is letting someone walk out of your life before they can wound you more deeply than you can recover from. You may think it's just a season of silence, just a misunderstanding, just a shift in energy, but beneath it all, God is drawing a boundary that you didn't know you needed. He sees what you cannot. He knows the thoughts they never spoke, the choices they nearly made, the roads they would have taken you down if He hadn't intervened. You didn't lose something when they left. You were saved from something that could have swallowed your joy and broken your peace. The hardest part is not always letting go, it's believing that the letting go was right. You might second guess, revisit memories, cling to the better moments, and wonder if maybe it could have worked out. But God doesn't ask you to make sense of everything. He asks you to trust that His love never fails, even when it feels like loss. What He removes, He does so with a purpose. If He called you to step away, it's not a rejection, it's protection. It's not cruelty, it's care. There are times when God gently removes your comfort so you can find clarity. When a man's presence begins to feel uneasy, when your spirit can no longer rest around him, when the peace you once had becomes strained, it may be the Holy Spirit quietly warning you, not with thunder or loud alarms, but with the still, persistent whisper that says, "This is not for you." And though you may love them, and they may even say they love you, love without alignment in God can lead you far from your purpose. Type 555 if you choose faith over fear. God knows how deeply we long to feel understood, how we hope to be seen and cherished, how easy it is to tie our heart to someone who seems to bring light into our dark days. But the enemy knows it too. And not every light is holy. Not every smile is safe. That's why God, in His gentle way, starts to pull you away, not because He wants you to suffer, but because He wants to save you from a suffering that would have been far worse. You may not see it now. You may even cry for what is gone, but one day, you'll thank Him for the rescue you didn't realize you needed. He is not exposing this man's nature to hurt you. He is opening your eyes to the truth. The name that once brought comfort may soon bring confusion. But this is not your undoing, it's your awakening. The same God who knit you together with love is the same God who watches over your life with fierce protection. And when something or someone is not sent by Him, He will do what He must to bring you back under His shelter, even if you thought He was the one, even if your plans had Him in them. Even if you cannot imagine the next season without him, God can. And his plans do not need our approval to be good. They just are. His goodness does not depend on whether you agree in the moment. He sees the fullness of your story, the years ahead, the healing you'll need, and the blessings he's preparing, and he knows exactly who cannot go with you there. You may feel like you're losing something precious, but you are actually being preserved. What feels like a breaking point is a breakthrough in disguise. That man you thought would lead you to peace may have quietly led you into spiritual dryness, into distraction, into compromise. God saw it, and in his mercy he disrupted it before it could destroy the joy and purpose he placed in your life. So do not harden your heart to his correction. Do not ignore the nudges that have grown stronger each day. Do not silence the voice that keeps urging you to step back, to release, to trust. This is not the voice of fear. This is the voice of a father who never stops fighting for you. And sometimes, that fight means pulling you away from someone you once prayed to keep. In this quiet part of your story, where nothing makes sense and everything feels uncertain, let God hold you. Let him remind you that you were not forgotten. Let him show you that love does not always look like staying, it sometimes looks like walking away, and that in obedience, there is always safety. You will not always understand why he said no, why he removed that man, why the name you held close became the name he warned you about. But one day, it will all fall into place. He is clearing the path ahead, not just for your safety, but for your joy, for your healing, for your purpose, for the divine appointments waiting for you beyond this storm. So take heart, even when the goodbye feels unfinished, even when the memory still lingers, even when the ache tries to return. You are not alone, and you are not abandoned. You are being guided by a love that knows no limit and a Savior who never fails. You were not made to beg for love, to shrink yourself to stay connected, or to lose your identity in the shadow of someone else's brokenness. You were made to walk in light, in truth, in joy, and in the full assurance that what God removes, he replaces with something far greater. You may wake up feeling unsettled, sensing that something has changed inside you, as if your spirit has quietly stepped back even while your emotions are still reaching forward. This inner shift is not weakness. It is discernment growing gently, like light entering a room at dawn. Type yes to affirm God's guidance. God knows how deeply human connections can shape the soul. He knows how a man's words can linger in your thoughts, how his presence can influence your decisions, and how his approval can slowly become something you seek more than peace. That is why God intervenes before attachment turns into bondage. He does not wait until the damage is loud and obvious. He acts when the harm is still forming, when the danger is still hidden behind smiles and familiar comfort. His love is preventative, not reactive, and his protection often comes before you even realize you need saving. They tried to hide this ancient 9-word prayer for decades, but it's finally been exposed, and those who speak it are seeing money flow into their lives in miraculous ways. Scientists reveal it awakens a neural pathway tied to abundance, joy, and opportunity. It's short, powerful, and life-altering. Thousands are already experiencing relief from debt and sudden wealth. Don't wait, click the link in the description and comments before it's removed forever. There are men who carry unresolved wounds, unhealed pride, quiet jealousy, or a hunger for control that they may not fully understand themselves. God sees these things clearly. He sees how those inner battles could spill into your life, draining your joy, shaking your confidence, and pulling you away from the stillness you need to hear his voice. Even if the man never meant to hurt you, God knows the weight you would have carried by staying. Love without wholeness can become heavy, and God never intended your heart to live under constant strain. When God begins to protect you, he often starts by strengthening your spirit. You may notice that you pray differently, that you crave silence more than conversation, that your heart longs for peace instead of excitement. These are signs of maturity, not distance from God. He is preparing you to see clearly, to stand firmly, and to release what no longer serves His purpose in your life. The discomfort you feel is not confusion. It is growth pressing against old patterns that no longer fit who you are becoming. Sometimes the name of the man God warns you about is tied to memories that once felt warm and safe. That is what makes this season difficult. You are not just letting go of a person. You are letting go of expectations, dreams, and versions of the future you once imagined. God understands this grief. He does not rush you through it. He walks with you, patiently reminding you that what you imagined was incomplete because it did not include the full truth He could see from the beginning. God's protection does not mean that you were foolish to care. It means that your heart was capable of love, and that is not a flaw. But now, He is teaching you discernment alongside compassion. He is showing you that not everyone who feels familiar is safe, and not everyone who stays close is meant to walk beside you into the next chapter of your life. This lesson is not meant to harden you. It is meant to refine you, so your love becomes wiser, deeper, and rooted in truth. Type 1212 if you choose to walk by faith. There may be moments when you feel tempted to return, to explain yourself, or to reopen doors God has already closed. In those moments, remember that God's silence is also communication. If He is not urging you forward, He is often asking you to remain still. Healing does not always require action. Sometimes it requires restraint. Sometimes the bravest step is choosing not to go back, even when your emotions pull you toward what feels familiar. God is not punishing you by removing this man from your life. He is protecting the tenderness of your heart and the clarity of your calling. He knows the plans He has planted within you, plans that require peace, stability, and spiritual focus. The wrong influence can slowly dim that light, not through cruelty, but through constant distraction. God values your future too much to allow that to happen. As you continue forward, you may begin to feel lighter, even if sadness still visits you from time to time. This lightness is a sign that your spirit is breathing again. It is learning what it feels like to exist without tension, without uncertainty, without the need to constantly adjust yourself to someone else's expectations. This freedom is not accidental. It is the result of God's careful and loving intervention. Do not rush to replace what was lost. God is not in a hurry. He works in seasons, not moments. He restores slowly, deeply, and completely. The space left behind is not emptiness. It is room. Room for healing. Room for truth. Room for relationships that will honor your growth instead of resisting it. Trust that God knows exactly what He is doing, even when you cannot yet see the outcome. Some are placed there to teach, to test, or to reveal something in yourself you didn't know was still healing. But there are others, those whose presence begins to quietly shift your focus, wear down your peace, and cloud your connection to God. These are the ones He removes with urgency, not out of punishment, but out of deep, relentless love. Type 1919 to receive miracles. God sees the things you overlook. He hears the conversations you'll never know about. He watches the way someone speaks about you when you're not in the room. And most of all, He understands the direction someone's heart is truly facing, even when their words are soft and their actions seem sincere. You may be holding on to a version of someone they never were, or perhaps someone they used to be but no longer are. And because God values your heart, He steps in when what you cling to no longer fits the future He's preparing for you. It hurts when someone you trusted becomes someone you barely recognize. It's confusing when someone who once spoke words of love now brings silence or distance. But pain does not always mean abandonment. Sometimes it means you are being pulled away for your protection, your restoration, and your peace. You may think you can fix it, that if you just try harder or pray longer, things will return to how they were. But God knows that not everything broken is meant to be mended, and not every relationship was meant to be permanent. There are battles you cannot fight for someone else. You cannot heal a heart that does not want healing. You cannot change a spirit that is unwilling to surrender, and you cannot anchor your soul to someone who is still drifting far from the presence of God. Even if you see their potential, even if you've walked a long journey with them, even if you feel responsible for their growth, God never called you to carry the weight of someone else's salvation. That is His job, not yours. He knows how deeply you loved. He saw the effort, the tears, the prayers whispered in the quiet of your room, and He has not overlooked any of it. But love that costs you your peace, your clarity, your safety, and your identity in Christ is not love God desires you to keep. He does not want you to become smaller, quieter, or hidden just to stay close to someone who cannot meet you where He's called you to stand. His voice will always lead you toward freedom, not fear, toward healing, not heartache, toward light, not confusion. Type 666 if you trust Jesus. A powerful 9-word prayer once classified by secret agencies has now leaked, and it's quietly rewriting destinies. In under 30 seconds, it reprograms the mind to attract wealth and dissolve scarcity. Users are reporting surprise income, restored hope, and financial peace, but this page might be deleted at any time. Click the link now before it's taken down without warning. You are not walking away because you're weak. You're walking away because God is lifting you out of a place that no longer reflects His will for your life. And it may take time for your heart to catch up with your spirit. You may grieve, you may feel unsure, but in time the peace that follows obedience will begin to settle in. The more space you create by letting go, the more room God has to fill with His presence. There is no shame in being fooled by a gentle voice or a kind smile. It happens when your heart is open, and God honors that tenderness. But as you grow, He teaches you to guard what is sacred. He teaches you that not every connection deserves full access to your spirit, and He reminds you that love, real love, is not just about emotion, it's about alignment with His truth. The man He is asking you to step away from may still carry parts of your story, but he does not carry your future. Your future is held by God alone. And when He says it's time to close this chapter, He is already preparing the next one with hands that never make mistakes. You don't need to understand every reason to trust Him. You just need to rest in the knowing that He is good, even when His ways feel unfamiliar. God is not just the God of beginnings, He is the God of endings too. And sometimes, the most powerful healing begins when you allow Him to bring something to a close, not out of bitterness, but out of reverence, not with anger, but with surrender. There is peace in letting go, even when your heart still trembles. There is strength in walking away, even when your hands feel empty. And there is healing in the quiet, sacred space where you choose obedience over comfort. Let God continue to guide you. Let Him cleanse the parts of your soul that held on too long, hoping for change that never came. Let Him rewrite the parts of your heart that forgot how worthy you are of love that doesn't leave you anxious or questioning. It's comforting to think love arrived, that prayers were answered, and that your heart can finally rest. But when God begins to whisper to your spirit, to stir your peace, to shift your emotions and sense of clarity, that is not to confuse you, it is to awaken you. Type 2323 if you agree. God is never late in showing you what your heart needs to see. He waits until you are strong enough to notice, still enough to listen, and quiet enough to feel. And then, with gentle urgency, He begins revealing the cracks. You'll start to sense that something is not right, not because of loud arguments or obvious betrayals, but because your soul no longer feels safe. That sense of unrest is not just anxiety, it is God trying to protect what He is building in you. It is the Spirit guarding the place where your faith is growing. It's hard to admit that someone you welcomed with open arms was not meant to stay. It's heartbreaking to watch a connection fade when you had wrapped your prayers around it. But God's ways are not based on what we see. He moves according to what we don't. He removes what we cling to when it begins to drain our strength, cloud our thinking, and distract our hearts from His presence. And in that removal, there is mercy, there is wisdom, there is love. Sometimes, the name God is protecting you from is one you thought you could trust. Maybe He prayed with you. Maybe He stood beside you in worship. Maybe He even spoke about faith and dreams and shared plans that felt aligned with yours. But actions can mimic truth for a while. Words can echo hope without carrying it. And even light can be imitated if you're not looking close enough. God sees beneath the surface. He sees what is whispered behind your back. He sees where the roots are planted, whether in faith or in pride. Type 2020 to claim miracles. God's protection isn't always obvious. It might come as delayed communication, missed meetings, arguments that seem to appear out of nowhere. You may think it's just a rough patch, just a season of testing. But sometimes, it is God's gentle way of showing you the beginning of an end that will protect your peace. If He is stirring your spirit, He is also speaking. If He is bringing things to light, it's not to shame, it's to save. Letting go of someone you loved is never easy. But holding on to someone God is asking you to release is even harder in the long run. The ache of obedience lasts for a season. The weight of disobedience lingers far longer. Trust that God is not removing this man to hurt you, but to help you rise, to make space for something more holy, to redirect you toward a life of peace, depth, and love that reflects His heart. There is nothing wrong with you for hoping. There is nothing foolish about believing the best in someone. But when God begins to close a door, the wisest thing you can do is stop trying to force it back open. That door is being sealed to protect you from a pain that would have followed had you stayed. That name, once held with affection, may come to remind you of a lesson, a shift, a divine moment, when God stepped in and said, "No more." He is not just protecting your present. He is shielding your future. The places He's preparing for you require peace, wisdom, and spiritual clarity. The wrong person, no matter how close they once felt, could damage the foundation God is building. Sometimes the danger isn't in what they've done, but in what they might do. And before destruction can form, God interrupts it with redirection. That is grace. That is kindness in disguise. What if you discovered a tiny, walnut-sized brain region holds the secret to endless wealth and success? Recently uncovered by groundbreaking research and once buried in classified files, this frequency is now available to anyone ready to listen. Imagine replacing worry and struggle with a life of financial ease and freedom. Interested? Click the link in video description and comments below to unleash this hidden brain wave and start attracting wealth right now. You have been guided to this message for a reason, and if you turn away, the chance may not return. This is your time to step in. Do not be afraid of the empty space. God never removes without restoring. He never ends without preparing something new. You may feel alone now, but you are not forsaken. You are not unloved. You are in the middle of a miracle, even if it doesn't feel like one. The breaking is part of the blessing, the goodbye is part of the healing, and the silence is part of the sacred process of God working behind the scenes. As time passes, your heart will begin to see things more clearly. What once made you cry will soon make you grateful. The name that brought confusion will no longer have power over your emotions. The man you once thought you needed will become a chapter in a story that was always about your growth, not your ruin. You are not weaker because you loved. You are stronger because you survived. And now, you are being elevated to something far more beautiful. Keep your heart open, but guarded. Keep your spirit soft, but not naive. Let God continue to show you who is for you and who is only with you for a moment. Not every person sent into your life is meant to stay. Some are teachers, some are tests, and some are redirections in human form. Some rather. That's not. God is still writing your story, and He is not finished. What's ahead is better than what you're leaving behind. Trust Him, even when it hurts, even when it shocks you. Some are distractions. Some are delays. Some carry with them a presence that seems light, but slowly pulls you into confusion, unrest, and emotional exhaustion. And when God sees that your heart is starting to suffer under the weight of something not meant for you, He steps in. Type Amen if you believe in God's timing. He will begin to distance you from what feels familiar. He'll allow conversations to dry up, calls to go unanswered, and plans to fall through, not because He wants to punish you, but because He is gently prying your fingers away from what you didn't know was harming your spirit. The man you once felt safe with, the one you prayed for, the one you kept hoping would change, God may ask you to release him, not because you failed, but because He succeeded in showing you the truth. The truth is, not all companionship is healthy. Some of it masks itself as love but brings quiet harm. And when God starts to reveal a man's true heart, it's not always in a dramatic moment. It's in the stillness. It's in the way your heart feels tight around His presence. It's in the way you start to question your worth, silence your voice, or shrink your faith just to keep the peace. That is not God's design. He never created you to live in emotional limbo, begging for love, chasing understanding, or doubting your intuition. You are His child. You are chosen, deeply known, and worthy of a love that does not confuse or drain you. God does not give half promises, and He does not send people into your life to constantly test your strength. When He blesses you with relationships, they are rooted in peace, gentleness, mutual respect, and clarity. And when those things begin to vanish, He will not let you stay blind. He will open your eyes in moments you least expect, because the protection of your heart is far more important to Him than your temporary comfort. Type 1111 if you trust in God's plan. There will be days when you miss Him, not because He was perfect, but because you grew used to His presence. You'll remember the good times, the conversations, the moments that felt right. But remember this too, if He was meant by God, He would not have led you into confusion, anxiety, or sadness that lingers more than joy. God does not send torment disguised as love. He does not confuse your spirit. What comes from Him aligns with peace, even in challenges. When God tries to protect you from someone, listen, not just with your ears, but with your heart. Feel the weight that lifts when you let go. Notice how your mind clears when the emotional noise fades. That's not just relief, that's confirmation. That's God affirming that the road ahead needed to be cleared. That your journey with that man was over, not because you weren't enough, but because that connection was never meant to carry the calling on your life. You have a purpose that requires emotional freedom. You have a mission that needs mental clarity. And most importantly, you have a heart that needs to stay tender, not torn. The wrong relationship can slowly rob you of your identity, not through abuse, but through small compromises, neglected boundaries, abandoned values, and forgotten dreams. God will not stand by while you lose yourself. He will intervene. He will interrupt. And when He does, it is your job to trust, even when the goodbye is silent and the parting feels unfinished. This is not the end of your story. This is the redirection of it. The pain of walking away will not last forever. In time, your heart will heal, and when it does, you'll see clearly why it had to happen. You'll look back with grace, not regret. You'll see the lessons, not the loss. And you'll be stronger, not hardened, but wiser, more discerning, and more in tune with God's voice. He is teaching you how to recognize His hand, not just in blessings, but in boundaries. He is showing you that love is not proven by how much you can endure, but by how deeply you protect your peace. The next time you meet someone, You'll listen more closely, not just to their words, but to the way your spirit responds. That is how growth looks. That is how healing unfolds. You are not walking alone. You are walking hand in hand with a God who knows your story from beginning to end. He is not afraid of your brokenness. He is not discouraged by your delays. He is still working, still shaping, still leading you towards something beautiful. But before he gives you the next chapter, he must close this one fully. What if I told you financial freedom is not about working harder, but activating a dormant brain signal designed to draw abundance directly to you? Neuroscience proves this sound wave unlocks prosperity faster than any method known before. From unexpected cash to life-changing success, it's already helping thousands. Imagine looking back tomorrow wishing you had acted today. Do not let regret replace the miracle that is calling you right now. Click the link in the video description and comments below to turn on the ancient money wave and create the life you've always dreamed of today. But sometimes, the person we call a blessing is actually the barrier keeping us from everything God has in store for us. It doesn't always come with loud warnings or dramatic moments. Sometimes, it's just a growing distance, a loss of peace, and an ache you can't explain. Type 222 if you believe in divine protection. God doesn't need to prove to you why He's asking you to walk away. He already saw what you couldn't. He already heard what you never would have. He already felt the direction that man's heart was turning, long before it became clear to you. His love for you is too great to leave you in a situation that chips away at your joy, your identity, or your purpose day by day. So, when the quiet pull toward release begins, when the warmth fades and confusion grows louder, God is not abandoning you. He is rescuing you. You might wonder why God waited this long, why He let things go so far before intervening. But God's timing is never late. He lets you walk just far enough to learn, to grow, to see for yourself what He already knew. And then, when your heart is tender enough, your faith deep enough, and your spirit finally willing, He opens your eyes in a way that you can no longer ignore. The mask falls, the truth surfaces, and suddenly, the peace that was missing returns not through the person but through the letting go. You may not get the closure you hoped for. He may never say the words you needed to hear. But that's because your healing was never supposed to come from Him. It was always going to come from God, the one who brings restoration, not confusion, the one who repairs what others didn't know they broke, the one who calls you His even when you feel lost and overlooked. He is not just the God who gives, He is also the God who removes, and every removal is a form of protection dressed in disappointment. Type 555 if you choose God's will over your own. There are men whose presence drains your strength, not by force, but by the slow erosion of your spirit. They speak in circles, offer just enough affection to keep you hoping, and never fully commit to the growth that love requires. And in your desire to believe the best, you start bending. You bend your standards, your dreams, your boundaries, and before long you don't recognize yourself. But God does. He remembers who you were before the confusion, and He's calling you back. He's not calling you to bitterness, but to healing. He's not calling you to prove your worth, but to remember it. He's not asking you to fix what's broken in someone else. He's asking you to protect what's whole in you. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for yourself and even for the man God is removing is to walk away in obedience. Because staying might comfort the flesh, but it would wound your soul. It's okay to grieve what could have been. It's okay to feel the ache of unanswered prayers and delayed dreams. But don't stay stuck there. Don't let disappointment become your dwelling place. Your heart is meant to live in hope, not in regret. What you thought was the right person may only have been the right lesson. And now that you've learned, now that you've grown, God is clearing the way for something more, something aligned with His heart, not just your hopes. It will not always be easy. There will be days when memories flood in, when loneliness whispers that maybe you should have stayed, maybe you expected too much, Maybe love is always supposed to feel like this, but that voice is not from God. The love He gives lifts you. It doesn't suffocate. It anchors you in peace, not anxiety. And when the right one comes, you won't have to question the safety of your own heart. You are not hard to love. You are not asking for too much. You are simply learning to stop accepting too little. And as painful as this season may be, it is sacred, because this is where God rebuilds you. This is where He removes the residue of false promises and begins to restore the joy you thought you lost. This is where He strengthens the voice inside you that once stayed quiet just to keep the peace. And this is where He reminds you that His love was never meant to be second to anyone else's attention. Let Him be enough right now. Let His comfort hold you in the silence. Let His voice be louder than the memories that try to pull you back. There will come a day when you look back on this and see it for what it was: not rejection, but protection. Not the end of love, but the beginning of a healthier, deeper kind of love that starts with God and overflows into every relationship that follows. It takes strength to face the silence left behind when someone exits your life, especially when you thought they were part of God's plan. But this silence is not a punishment, it is space. Space for you to breathe again. Space for God to speak clearly. Space for healing that was long overdue. Type yes to affirm God's truth in your life. Sometimes, we get so caught up in what we hoped for that we forget to notice what God is trying to spare us from. You might have seen good qualities in Him. You may have laughed together, prayed together, dreamed together. But God doesn't look only at moments. He looks at motives. He looks at what's behind the surface, deep into the hidden places, and when He says this is not for you, He is not guessing, He is certain. And He wants you to trust His certainty more than your desire to stay comfortable. The hardest part is often not letting go of the man himself. It's letting go of the version of your future you tied to Him. You imagine growing with Him, building with Him, maybe even serving God together. But that version of your story was incomplete because it was built on what you wanted, not what God ordained. God doesn't just want to give you a life that looks good. He wants to give you a life that's safe for your soul. An ancient 9-word code, once reserved for high-level insiders, has been uncovered. It's simple, quick, and shockingly effective at drawing money and blessings into your life. Neuroscientists confirm it stimulates the brain's receiving center, an area dormant in most people. People everywhere are calling it the 30-second miracle. Click the link in the description and comments before the authorities remove it again. There are people who can speak about faith without living it. There are men who can wear the language of God but carry hearts far from Him. They can talk about prayer, about destiny, about love, but their actions reveal something different. And the more time you spend near them, the more you begin to lose sight of who you are, what you value, and what God has asked you to protect. That is why He steps in. That is why He says no, even when your heart is begging for yes. Type 1212 if you walk by faith and not by sight. It's important to understand that when God removes someone, it is never random. He doesn't move people out of your life as a test of pain, but as a step of protection. He knows how easily we settle when we're tired. He knows how quickly we accept half love when we're afraid of starting over. But God never deals in half measures. His plans for you are complete. His love is whole. And He will not allow someone to remain in your life if their presence threatens your peace, your faith, or your future. Even when that person seems kind, even when they promise change, even when they say all the right things but their actions continue to show otherwise. God does not wait for complete ruin to rescue you. He intervenes in the early stages. He interrupts before the damage is irreversible. And while it may break your heart in the short term, it will protect your spirit in the long term. You might feel confused about how things fell apart. One day it all seemed fine, and the next, everything was different. But when God moves, He doesn't always give a warning. Sometimes He allows truth to surface suddenly, so that you can no longer deny what you've been trying to avoid. That man may have been good in parts, but not in the ways that mattered most. And God will never allow someone to keep your heart if they aren't equipped to guard it with grace, truth, and honor. Healing won't come all at once. It comes in waves, one moment of clarity after another, one reminder of peace, one choice to keep walking forward, even when the past calls your name. You won't always feel strong. You won't always feel sure. But you don't need to have it all figured out to keep trusting God. He honors your steps even when they tremble. He stays close, even when you cry out in silence. This chapter of release is not just about loss. It's about rediscovery. You are learning who you are again without the weight of someone else's confusion wrapped around your identity. You are learning how it feels to speak without editing yourself, to believe without apology, to rest without the fear of being misunderstood. These are gifts God gives after a storm, the calm after the letting go. Let your heart feel what it needs to feel, but don't build your life around someone who isn't present anymore. God is ahead of you, not behind. And everything He has planned flows from where you're going, not what you left. Even if you still have love for Him, even if you still care, release doesn't require hate. It only requires trust. Trust that God will finish what He started. Trust that your life is not behind you. Trust that what feels like loss today will become your strength tomorrow. The name that once brought a smile may now bring sadness, but one day it won't bring anything at all. Not pain, not bitterness, not even regret, just gratitude. Because you'll know that God protected you before you even knew you needed protecting. And when you finally meet what He has been preparing for you, when the peace is steady, the love is mutual, and your spirit remains whole, you'll look back and say, "Thank you, Lord, for not letting me settle." The unrest has been growing, the questions have been increasing, and your soul has been whispering what your heart has tried to ignore. This is not the path God chose for you, and He loves you too much to let you stay on it. Type Amen if you believe God knows what's best for you. There are moments in life when clarity doesn't come through explanation, but through experience. You might not be able to explain why something feels wrong, but you feel it deeply. That feeling is often the Holy Spirit, gently nudging you away from what your eyes still want. You may still care for Him, and part of you might be hoping He'll change, say the right things, or realize what He lost. But hope that keeps you bound to a person who's not changing is not hope rooted in God. It's a delay dressed in sentiment. God does not want your heart to stay tied to someone who causes you to doubt your worth, your beauty, or your place in His plan. He never intended for love to leave you feeling uncertain, anxious, or small. And when the love you've received begins to take more from you than it gives back, that is not love from the Father. That is a counterfeit connection, one that may have started well, but now only survives through compromise, silence, and exhaustion. This is why God interrupts. Not to take something good from you, but to remove something harmful in ways you've yet to fully understand. There are battles ahead that require your full heart, your full strength, your full attention, and He cannot let someone beside you who was never meant to go where He's taking you. That man may have served a purpose for a time, but not all companions are meant to walk the full journey. Type 1111 if you trust God to lead you to what's right. You may feel alone now. You may feel like no one truly understands the weight you carry in your chest, the late nights wondering if you made the right decision, the days spent second-guessing your own peace. But know this: God sees every moment. He sees the ache behind your smile and the bravery it takes to keep going. He knows that obedience is not always loud. Sometimes it's just choosing not to reply. Sometimes it's not returning the call. Sometimes it's walking past what you used to run to. A hidden 9-word prayer rediscovered in a sealed government document is now changing everything for those who dare to use it. It activates your brain's forgotten abundance channel, helping you manifest prosperity in ways you've never seen before. The results, cleared debts, growing savings, sudden opportunities speak for themselves. Don't wait until this vanishes. Click the link before it's erased from the internet. It may not look like victory, but every time you choose to protect your peace instead of defending dysfunction, you are winning. Every time you choose to believe that God has more for you than the bare minimum, you are walking in faith. And every time you say no to what once felt comfortable but cost your clarity, you are rising higher into your calling. This is not about punishing the man. It's about protecting your spirit. It's not about bitterness. It's about boundaries, and it's not about closing your heart. It's about opening it in the right direction toward God, toward healing, and toward the life He's already preparing for you. You won't always miss Him. You won't always feel this ache. Healing is not loud. It's quiet. It slips in slowly, in unexpected moments, in a deep breath that doesn't carry grief, in a prayer that no longer asks for Him back, in a morning when your thoughts don't immediately go to what could have been. One day, you'll realize that you're okay, that you're free, that you're standing in peace without trying to explain it. And that day won't come because of time alone. It will come because you allowed God to lead you through the process. You stayed close. You kept praying, even when your voice trembled. You kept believing, even when nothing made sense. And in doing so, you gave God the space to work. And He is working, even now, even in the silence, even in the tears. He is preparing someone who will not make you question your place in their life. Someone whose actions will match their words. Someone who loves God deeply, not just in public but in private, in the way they treat others, in the way they make decisions, in the way they carry integrity. And most importantly, someone who will never require you to lose yourself to be loved. But for now, let this season refine you. Let it be where your heart grows stronger, softer, and wiser all at once. Let it be the time when you fall more in love with God than ever before, because He never left, not once. He was there in every silent goodbye, in every unanswered message, in every broken plan. He was there, gently guiding you out of something you didn't realize was costing you more than it was giving you. So take this moment to breathe, to be still, to feel the weight that's already lifting. You are not alone. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are becoming. Becoming the version of you that trusts God more deeply, that walks in peace more steadily, and that loves without losing herself. The picture may still be blurry, and your emotions may be tangled in memories and feelings that once brought you comfort, but deep inside there's a quiet knowing, a soft but firm stirring in your spirit that tells you something is not right anymore. And God is asking you to listen not just with your ears, but with your heart. Type 1919 to receive miracles from above. You've carried the weight of this for longer than you realized. You've tried to explain the unspoken tension, excused the changes, ignored the discomfort, and hoped that if you loved Him enough, everything would align. But love is not meant to be your only lifeline. You were never created to be the sole keeper of a relationship, holding it together while slowly falling apart inside. God is stepping in because He sees the pieces of your soul that have been quietly breaking, hidden beneath the smile you keep showing the world. There are times when a man's presence seems right only because you've gotten used to his absence in all the ways that matter most. His words may remain, but his heart is no longer with you. He may say he loves God, but his actions show distance from His truth. And you, gentle and hopeful, kept praying for things to return to how they once were, not realizing that God was trying to lead you into something better, not backward but forward. It takes courage to leave what you once prayed to keep, but God honors that kind of courage. The kind that says, I don't understand, but I will obey. The kind that walks away not in anger but in trust. The kind that chooses peace over patterns, even when the heart still feels raw. God is not asking you to stop loving. He's asking you to stop sacrificing yourself for a love that no longer honors Him. There are battles you've fought in silence, tears you've cried in the quiet of your room, times you wondered if maybe it was your fault, if maybe you weren't enough, if maybe there was something you could have done differently. But that voice is not from God. His voice speaks gently but clearly. You are enough. You have always been enough. And you deserve a love that doesn't wound your spirit to stay alive. Type 666 if you trust Jesus more than your feelings. The truth is, God removes before He restores. He takes away what is not rooted in His truth so that He can plant something that is. And though the soil of your heart may feel shaken, it is being prepared for something sacred. You are not being punished. You are being protected from what you may not fully know yet, but God does, and that's all that matters. This protection doesn't mean the man was evil. It doesn't mean he never loved you in his own way. But sometimes, a person's love is simply not enough to carry the weight of your calling. Sometimes God sees that their journey is leading away from Him, while yours is leading closer. And when paths no longer align, God must intervene not because He wants to separate hearts, but because He wants to preserve yours. You may still feel the urge to reach out, to fix what's broken, to try again, but healing doesn't begin in repetition, it begins in release. God isn't asking you to harden your heart. He's asking you to protect it. He's asking you to stop pouring yourself into someone who's no longer pouring into you. And He's asking you to believe, truly believe that what He has ahead of you is not only better, it's right. What if everything you've been chasing, wealth, freedom, success, could be drawn to you automatically, simply by unlocking a secret brainwave hidden inside you? Once classified by intelligence agencies, this discovery is now available to the public, and it's changing lives instantly. Picture yourself debt-free, stress-free, and thriving. The window is open, but not forever, and every second you wait is wealth slipping from your hands, so grasp it now. Click the link in video description and comments below to awaken this money magnet frequency and watch abundance flow into your life today. One day, you'll look back and see it all with new eyes. The sleepless nights, the silent prayers, the long walks with questions and no answers. And you'll see how God was there in every single moment. He never left you to figure it out alone. He never stopped whispering, even when you couldn't hear Him clearly. And when you were finally ready to let go, He met you with arms wide open, not to scold you, but to carry you through the letting go. You are not too late to receive the love God has for you. You are not too far gone. You are not broken beyond repair. If anything, you are exactly where He wants you, ready to release, to grow, to heal, to receive. The man God removed was part of your story, but not the whole story. He may have shaped part of your past, but He does not define your future. That belongs to God alone. When you've spent time nurturing something, hoping for the best, believing that love and prayer alone would be enough, it's hard to admit that the very thing you were building was never rooted in Him. But God, in His mercy, will never let you stay planted in a place where your heart is slowly withering, no matter how much you've invested. Type 2323 if you agree that God's way is higher. There is a certain kind of sadness that comes when you realize the man you trusted wasn't sent by God, not because he was cruel, but because he wasn't consistent. Not because he was all wrong, but because he wasn't right for the journey ahead. God doesn't remove people from your life to leave you empty. He removes them to make room for what's divine, what's lasting, what's healing, and sometimes He has to break the bond to keep you from breaking under its weight. Your silence lately hasn't been weakness. It's been strength in disguise. The quiet distancing, the unspoken pain, the hidden tears that no one saw, all of that was part of the turning point. God watched as you struggled between your heart and His voice. And when you finally began to listen more to the whisper of His Spirit than to the noise of your emotions, He stepped in. He began pulling you out of what was never safe to begin with. There's no shame in loving someone who turned out to be wrong for you. That love shows your heart. It shows your hope, your faith, your willingness to believe in someone even when they didn't fully show up for you. But now, God is teaching you something higher. He's showing you the difference between love and loyalty to pain, between being patient and being drained, between waiting on His timing and ignoring His signs. The man He's asking you to walk away from may still try to stay. He might sense your distance and suddenly become attentive again. He may say what you've been longing to hear. But don't confuse a response to absence with a response to love. Some people only react when they feel they're losing you, not because they've changed, but because they fear being left behind. And God doesn't want you to be tied to someone who only realizes your worth in moments of panic. Type 2020 to claim miracles through obedience. You're not meant to live in that cycle anymore. That up and down, on and off, always waiting, always hoping kind of love is not what your Father has for you. He has something steadier, something sacred. Someone who won't need to be reminded to value you. Someone whose heart is rooted in Him and whose actions are full of honor, not just affection. But before you receive that, you must let go of what is already fading. Letting go doesn't mean you never cared. It means you've decided to care about yourself the way God does. It means you've stopped seeing your worth through someone else's ability to hold it. And it means you've chosen peace over pressure, clarity over confusion, and healing over history. God's protection isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a gentle closing of doors, a quiet goodbye, a slow but certain shift in the atmosphere around someone who used to feel like home. You don't need a big reason to walk away. Sometimes the absence of peace is reason enough, and when God is guiding your steps, that lack of peace is often the loudest signal He will give. You will find joy again. The ache in your chest will soften. The nights that feel too long will become easier to bear. And one day, not far from now, you will wake up and realize that you've crossed into something new, that your spirit feels lighter, that your mind is clearer, that your faith is stronger. Because when you let God protect you, even from the person you once thought was a gift, He always replaces pain with purpose. This man, no matter how deeply you once felt for him, is no longer part of your destiny. Your story doesn't end with disappointment. It doesn't pause at heartbreak. It unfolds with beauty and redemption, with laughter and love, and with the presence of someone who will never ask you to prove your worth. You may still wake up wondering what went wrong, going over old conversations, reliving both the moments that made you smile and the ones that left you broken. That's normal. It's a part of the healing process. Your heart isn't a switch you can flip. It's a tender garden, and when God begins to prune it, it stings at first, but it's always to prepare it for new growth. Every tear you've cried in private has watered something inside you, and that something is beginning to bloom. The man you once hoped for is no longer where God is leading you. You may have seen potential in him. You may have loved him from a place of genuine faith. But God does not call you to build your future on potential. He calls you to build it on promise. And His promise always begins with peace, truth, and clarity. Not with chaos. Not with compromise. Not with confusion, dressed up as hope. What if the fastest path to wealth was already inside your mind, waiting to be activated by a powerful sound wave? Scientists call it the money-attracting frequency, and once awakened, it begins drawing opportunities, success, and financial freedom like never before. Imagine the relief of no more bills and the joy of living your dreams. This is more than an offer. It is a divine turning point. Your destiny is waiting, but only if you choose to move now. Click the link in the video description and comments below to turn on this ancient brainwave today.